This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're about to begin our meeting. We'll be having the volunteers on the prayer. Okay.
Dear Lord, we thank this day and we thank this time to come together and do the business of this county. Lord, be with us and let us do the work of the county as you'd have us fit, and think of all the citizens of the county as we make these decisions. Be with us as we get through this meeting. In your holy name, amen.
Amen. Let's all stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We have before you a proposed agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move we adopt this here.
I second.
Oh, we got 2 seconds on that. It has been motioned and second. All in favor by the show of hands? That motion carries. Our old minutes were emailed and mailed to all of us. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we approve the old minutes, Mr. Chairman.
I second.
There has been motion and second. Do we have any discussion on it before we vote on or correction? If not, all in favor of it? And that's unanimous. Okay, that motion carries. Mr. Steve is on you.
Okay. Just as a matter of information, I think I sent a previous notice out, but just to make sure everybody knows about it. The DOT, Georgia Department of Transportation, has recommended that the city of Ina close the bridge on Coney Road at Pennahatchie Creek. There appears to be some issues with it. They want to do some further evaluations and potential repairs to it. So that road is closed to traffic for the next foreseeable future.
That's right here beside the
Right
road
across
track.
the railroad track from the courthouse as you're heading out.
Right. But that ain't the first time they don't have some problem at that bridge. I remember once before.
Water got it highway.
Yeah.
Would this push that project up for Coney, or was that even included in?
I don't think that wasn't included. It was just the pavement resurfacing. So just wanted everybody to be aware of that. And then, I'd like to skip to item number 10 on the agenda and ask Lance if you and Rodney will step on up to the table. Get my agenda here.
And that look like you two did it. And why must I read that?
Actually, been done.
Just a reminder, we briefly discussed this at the last meeting. The Georgia Department of Transportation has some funding available through what they call their FY 2024 LMIG Safety Action Plan. And Dooley County is eligible for $165,480 in it. It requires a 10% local match, and applications must be submitted by May the 10th. This is one of those projects funding that they told us what this money can only be used on these roads on this list. And it's based on some safety criteria they use. I can't explain it and ain't gonna try to explain it. But that's what they told us. It can be spent for safety matters, and Rodney and Lance and I think based on our conversation last time, we decided we'd spend it on center line striping.
Mm-hmm.
It start at the top of the list and go down the list as far as the money would go, was what we had talked about. So if take one of those and pass it around. Lance has done some cost estimates on it. And see if I can make this a little larger for folks to be able to see. I'll wait till that makes its way around and we'll go down the list. And if you would, Pat, there should be some extra, pass those around to Lance and Rodney, just in case.
Okay, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Now, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, if you have your phone on or whatever, you need to put it on the silent mode vibration. I know the sign is out there and even on the wall. And normally I indicate that at the beginning of the meeting, but I forgot to do it today. So I just want to remind everybody, just a friendly reminder. After that, then we're there this issue. Okay, carry on, Steve.
Okay. And we're talking about just center line striping. Pinehurst Hawkinsville Road, he estimates that to be almost $34,000. And that would be starting at Highway 230 near the county line, coming all the way into the Pinehurst city limits. County Line Road, I think we finally determined this is the northern county, what we call Northern County Line Road. It'd be $16,000. It would start at Highway 41 and go west to Highway 329. Franklin Road, $25,000, starting at Highway 27 and going all the way for the entire road going to River Road. Cason Road, be $7,000, starting at Highway 215 and going for the entire road to Shiloh Road. Bowen Road, be almost $9,000, starting at Calhoun Road, ending at the bridge on the south end because I think up to that point is where when the state redid the intersection out there at 215, it's still in good shape down to the bridge. That's the reason for that. Poplar Springs Road, $30,000, starting at the Byronville city limits and going to Highway 230. Elko Road, almost $4,000, starting at the county line and coming all the way down to Highway 41. River Road, this is the south section of River Road. It would start at Highway 27 and go down to the Smokehouse Road or the county line, basically. Chris County line. Lambtown Road, almost $9,000, going from Highway 257 to Highway 215 for the entire road. Noble Gin Road, almost $26,000, going from Highway 215 to Calhoun Road. That would the estimates total $184,000. We're eligible for $165,000 from DOT, and we'd have to match that. So $182,000. So funding all that, now these are cost estimates, you got to take out bids, but the estimate is a bit $2,000 over what our required match would be. So do y'all, I'll stop there. Any questions or comments?
Is any road on there to be paved, like next LMA or the next one?
That's a good question.
That we hadn't.
The 24 LME that we have now that will be put out, that's out for bid, bid will be opened on May 16th. That is that project we're paving just bad sections, so it's only short sections. So there's only one road that's a really long stretch of paving, and it's not on here, but but I don't know, we hadn't gotten that far to be ready to do the 25 LME, but that needs to be July 1st. We'll be we should be, getting close to be ready to apply for that money whenever on July 1st. But that has not, at this point right now, that's not what we We ain't got that far. And we can, and once the bids come in for this, we can adjust. If the bids come up too high, we'll just start at the right side of the page and work ourselves back to go as far as we can go. If it comes up that the bids are $140,000, we'll go back to that list that DOT gave us and keep on down the line.
How much you said was over, Steve?
$2,000.
2. Oh, yeah.
2,000 out of 180.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
I'll offer the motion. Mr. Chairman, that we accept this, I think it's 11 roads I counted there.
Mhm.
And, let Mr. Lance put this out to bid and see how far we can go with it.
I second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. There's been a motion and second. Do we have any other discussion on it before we vote on it?
All right. So you'll prepare the application to DOT for the money that's got to be submitted by
May 10th.
May 10th. That's the most pressing deadline is to submit the application. So we'll, and
Get
then
approved. And then once they let us, well, we'll go ahead and start the contract preparation.
Mhm.
That way, when they say, yes, it's approved, just a few days, you should be getting the money, from what I recall, and it'll be ready to be advertised and all that.
Okay. All right. So that takes care of item number 10.
Did we vote on
I'm sorry.
We had
Excuse me, I'm
discussion,
sorry.
had discussion.
Yeah.
With discussion, when the public sees this centerline stripe on some of these roads, they gonna say, was that all you're gonna do? Well, our answer is we had parameters that we can only use this money a certain way. And they even picked the roads, that it could be used on. So I think we can all agree that, a road needs a centerline stripe, nighttime driving, rain. I mean, I hear more negative comments about that on our roads than anything, the safety issue. And I think this safest way we can use this money is just what you put together there.
And this is a hand-me-down from the, ain't no hand-me-down, but from the state. So
That's
you're
right.
like,
It's extra, everybody pretty much, as long as you are up to date on all your paperwork with the state, you'll get your LMIG money. This is what's called off-system safety plan, safety action plan. And this is just for safety items, but it's an extra pot of money that falls up under the LMIG program. So yes, it's, and they just pretty much hand it out to
mhm.
the ones that need it.
Okay. Anything else before we vote on it? All in favor by the show of hands? And that motion carries.
Okay, and then back to the agenda for item number 11. DOT also has some extra LMIG money for fiscal year 24 for what they're calling their local road assistance program. And Dooley County is eligible for $891,000. This does not require a local match. And there's no, basically we can just use this for basically any transportation projects we deem our priority. And we talked about this at the last meeting. We talked about there's a drainage project on River Road and West Road that we're still working on trying to get up some cost estimates, but the maximum it would cost those two projects would be $600,000 roughly. So what do y'all want? Lance, Rodney, and I need some guidance on what would y'all like for us to get some prices on for the remainder $300,000. We talked about trying to come up with putting some type of rock on some bad sections of dirt roads. I think that's something we ought to try.
What about that bridge over there? One, this road back over here.
On Swearingen Road,
Well, putting that,
we thought, consider maybe just, kicking that down the road a little while
okay.
to get more areas done. I think we might get more bang for our buck if we try this, because, so I understand that Pulaski County, for their 2024 LMIG, that's what they're doing with their 2024 LMIG. And Rodney had mentioned there's a road right in the edge of Chris County that Chris County had put some gravel on recently, and I rode down there yesterday and looked at it, and I think Commissioner Mixon rode that road right after one of the recent heavy rains, and was impressed with how well that section of road held up,
You knew when you came out of Chris County.
unfortunately.
I mean, it really just difference in not saying we needed to do it to the rest of that road. People I don't think anybody else lived right in there, but it was a solid dirt road of getting in and out.
And it's still gonna be muddy, but it's not gonna be boggy as that some of our roads can get, so. Is that what y'all like for us to try to come up with some cost
I
estimates
think that's
on?
good.
I think it's a good idea.
Can they get a cost estimate on grinding up that road and opening it out at the
Spring Hill,
Spring Hill
make a note of that.
from the church to leave the pavement
From Tippettville,
from Tippettville to the church driveway. I think it's a couple of spots, which we might could do that with
I think we have it on the 24 LMIG project.
that section is.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'm
I
not
didn't
bad
see that.
mistaken.
Yes, I don't remember that.
I think it's like 800 feet long,
Yeah,
maybe.
It's not
But
much, but
But I'm pretty sure that's one of the ones that's on this like 14 road, so.
yeah, I'd like to see us grind it up, at least just open that road back up where it's not a hazard to.
That's the question.
Just,
Lance, I've heard that this local road assistance money they're very hopeful it's gonna be a every year thing now.
Man, that would be great.
And that's why they given it a name like they have, LMIG Local Road Assistance, to give it a totally separate name. But I've been told that by a person with DOT. I didn't know if you had heard anything along those lines.
I'd heard that, but yeah, I wouldn't want to get my hopes up, but I'm thankful. I mean, this is like Christmas time.
Oh, that's greater than our LMIG amount.
Most definitely.
and everybody else's, I'm sure.
Mr. Casey, do you know where the funding's coming from? If they know what the excess funding?
It was.
State budget.
As long as we have excess.
They have excess reserves. That the way I understood it.
Quick question, on the dirt roads, are y'all just gonna price what a random dirt road would be per mile, or do we need to specify certain problem roads?
The way I put it out for bid in Pulaski County is I asked for a price per ton to be picked up by the county at whatever supplier it was, whatever the contractor's yard. So the contractor would just load it onto the county truck, and it was a price per ton for that. The other was to drop a pin at the county's yard and said, a price per ton delivered to the county yard. The third line item was tailgated, the contractor tailgating the rock, dumped straight onto the road, a price per ton, plus a mileage rate from the county line that's closest to where the rock is located to the road, because it's varied. So you just have to, if you had to get a hard number, a contractor would expect, well, it's gotta haul it all the way across the county. And it's not necessarily gonna be the case.
Yeah.
What was the estimate per mile over there? You told it, was it 14 miles for 400,000?
I think we figured about $3,000 a mile.
Three?
$3,000 a mile.
No. Okay. 3,000.
No, I think you, 15 miles for 450, that's 30,000.
30,000 a mile.
We'll take it.
Take the three, yeah. Okay.
Well, but, okay, so one of the things about that is the supply. See, we were hoping to get 15,000 tons over there. But to get, somebody's gotta have 15,000 tons. So, and one supplier had 15,000.
Class County was looking at getting crushed concrete, recycled concrete,
That's what's down on that road.
but there's limited supplies, from what I understand, of that. And even limited supplies of gravel, potentially, depends on what the quarries are producing.
Yes, that's right. And yes, you could get number 4s or number 5 stone. At the time when we were asking the quarry, both quarries up in Macon were not settling. They were not producing that size rock at that time. And I think one of them was producing, the other one wasn't. The one that was producing it was sending all of theirs to a big contractor in Atlanta. So supply, I mean, it
It might take time to finish it, depending on the supply of
well, they're not, that's one of those, it's not gonna happen. That's one of those jobs that it's not gonna happen just overnight, because what I would envision to happen is we would have a list of high priority roads. And to put out just say we had 3 contractors to provide proposals. We would kind of lump those, depending on prices and the quality of material and locations of where the dirt roads are. We will probably take and say, okay, this particular contractor gets a task order or work order to do $50,000 worth of rock. These are the roads that we're going to put it on, and these are the tonnages. These are, coordinates, however length the road, whatever. And we would kind of bust it up like that, and then we would need to have give them where they would get that rock down within a week, or we'd have some kind of time frame, and that's something to be discussed, as we get farther along. But
I just know some of the problem roads, like your problem road, it's about a mile. Yours is not quite a mile. Buckholt's almost a mile. Indian Boundary, almost a mile. So I wrote and calculated some of the ones that we constantly have them.
the way that I had planned to do it in Pulaski County is only spot areas. The tops of hills that have slick clay are going up, when you're coming down the hill or going up the hill, you worry about sliding into the ditch. Those areas, and then the very lowest and the low bottom, that would be, you can go after the rain and know exactly where they're, you wouldn't have to do them on sandy roads. But that would be, there's going to be isolated areas up at intersections of dirt roads. That would be one of the things, like a hill that comes up, you get 100, 200 feet from the road. So if you're coming up to a road, like on a dirt road coming up and it's wet, well, once you stop, you need some traction. So it's isolated areas. I wouldn't envision it to be a whole road unless it's just a slot hole. I would expect to be isolated areas. And the good thing about rock, you can sweeten it up, as needed. You can put, some's not gonna need but just a little bit, and then some are gonna need another pass or two.
But Steve, how many dirt road how much dirt road do we have? How many miles of dirt road do we have that need rock on?
That's something we gotta get together and come up with a list. I don't know right off the top of my head. I think y'all mentioned some of the,
I just went.
Yeah.
what y'all are familiar with, and then
Mhm.
Rodney could probably come up with some more that he pretty much knows where all the sort of the normal bad sections are after a heavy rain. So, and we got a little time. This application isn't due till June the 15th, so we got a little time to work on that, and we'll come back. Now, when we submit the application, we're going to have to identify the roads and sections of the roads.
What we did for, Pulaski County is Ronnie that worked for me, he input every dirt road in the county into the DOT system, 117. It crashed 3 times. Their website went down 3 times doing it, but that was pretty good. I was expecting it to be a lot worse, but we put in every dirt road into their system.
Okay.
So, and I can't say every one of them will get some. We'll get some rock, but that's
Okay.
the way we did that. But we will need a list of every road in the county, length, and then we'll describe what we'll be doing.
But let me ask you this, now what about if you have a dirt road in the city limit?
That's the city's responsibility.
Okay.
Are there any other questions about the local road assistance? Hearing none, we'll keep moving because we got a pretty full agenda. Where is it? Oh, then we'll go to item number 14 on the agenda. DOT now has come out and notified us about another program they have. They call it Locally Owned Bridges Prioritization Effort. And basically, it's saying that DOT is currently in the process of evaluating locally owned bridges for possible future replacement. We're in the early phases of screening. Attached is a list of posted load-rated off-system bridges in your jurisdiction. We would like for you to provide DOT with your priorities for further evaluation for one of the bridges they've identified. And the ones they've identified, there's 2 bridges on 3rd District Road, one at Cedar Creek, one at South Prong Creek. Godwin Bridge Road at Turkey Creek Overflow, Mount Vernon Road at Turkey Creek, Heath Road at South Prong Creek, Mashburn Road at Wildcat Creek Tributary, and St. John's Road at Camp Creek. They're wanting us to provide them our priorities by May 15th. So I'm just first letting y'all know about it. I'll get with Rodney and we'll give y'all some more information at the next meeting. I just want y'all to be aware that this is.
I just looked and saw the name. I'm trying to see which cousin is that of mine. That's a
But-
rarity
That'd
there.
be good to know.
Yep.
Anyway, that's something. And as I interpret that, they're just wanting us to put our priority on it. That don't mean they're going to go by it, but it's just they're asking for our input. So we'll give them some input on that, but we'll get y'all some additional information later next meeting. I think that's all I have for the road department. Rodney, you got anything?
What's the office thing on here?
We'll come back to, we ain't got time to get into that today, so we'll talk about the office later.
Ain't no problem. I know you got a full load.
Yeah.
I know that you were supposed to receive the letter concerning the bridge down here. And the only person it stated that the engineer had spoken with me, I hadn't spoken to anybody except for JJ with the city. And we got a plan and he came and got some barricades yesterday And then when I read the email, I mean, we got 15 days to get everything posted and up, so I got my group lining up. We had a bunch of detours lines and all. We're working with JJ with the city because I don't know, as far as driving post, I don't know what's on his right of ways here. But my group's supposed to be getting with him, and we're gonna do a joint effort to, get everything notified coming in to that point. So these, trucks coming, they won't be in a cramp when they get there and can't turn around. So that's what we're working on right now.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go back to the agenda. Okay, you got a copy of the finance report at the end of March. Take it and look at it. You got any questions? We'll be glad to try to answer any you may have. Item number 3, just a reminder, we got a vacant position on the Middle Flint Health and Wellness Board. We'll leave it on the agenda until somebody comes up with a nomination. Item number 4, reminder, we got a vacancy on the DFAX board. Keep that on the agenda until we come up with a nomination. And I'm not quite ready to give y'all something on the new roads, so I hope to have something at the next meeting for new roads and subdivisions. Item number 6, just a reminder, there's a vacancy on the Board of Elections and Registration. Keep that on the agenda. Number 7, a reminder, the annual legislative luncheon sponsored by the River Valley Regional Commission is scheduled for May 22nd in Americus. If anybody plans to attend, please let Linda know so she can RSVP for you. Item number 8, at their meeting earlier this month, the Planning Commission considered 3 zoning requests. One was a variance on parcel 2510 on Baggs Road. Planning Commission approved that variance. Number 2 was a variance request for parcel 77-11A on Pinehurst Hawkinsville Road. The Planning Commission approved that request. And number 3 was regarding a variance and a conditional use on parcel 74-1 on North Caroline Road. And we have a recommendation from the Planning Commission, and that's on the agenda at 10 o'clock. So we'll skip over that till 10 o'clock. Let me get caught up here on my paper. Okay. So let's go to item, took care of that, skip that. Item number 13, I think Lance mentioned that briefly, but the sealed bids for our 2024 LMIG project will be open here at the Commissioner's office at 2 p.m. on Thursday, May the 16th. Y'all are not required to be here. You're welcome to be here if you'd like. But all we're going to do is open the bids, and then Lance will take them in, go through them, and come up with a recommendation by our first meeting in June. So. Already talked about number 14. Item 15, just on Somerville Road, just want to let y'all know that I have sent right-of-way deeds to the following individual, to this list of individuals for parcel 40-23. And as of today, I've received Mr. Tommy Lee Turner's back. I have not received any of the others. Do we want to record the deeds as they come in, wait till we get all the deeds for that one parcel, or how should we proceed?
We should record them as they come in, because if they're set in stone, and then if something happens, we don't have to go through and get a separate deed from a different state at that point. Traditionally, we waited until we got them all at one time to record them. It created a nightmare both ways, but this way we won't have any more of these issues that I gave it 10 years ago, then Mama died. Well, Mama gave it 10 years ago, then Mama died. The problem has been that if you don't have full cooperation with the members of a particular family or within neighbors on a particular road, you're gonna have a piecemeal approach. But this has been going on, and on this case, I would say make the exception to what the general rule had been before I became county attorney, and let us record what we have, so that then when people say, what happened to the deed that I signed, we can say, our policy is, we filed it, here it is at the courthouse. And it didn't get lost in the file. And then they can't make up the fact that they sent it when they really did not send it.
Well, let me ask you a question. And then these are the ones, okay, I know the Matter Turner is, she's still living. Now, which are the rest of the kids from the lady that passed away?
No,
Susan Davis and Brian Johnson, and Joshua Turner.
No. Jocelyn Turner and
You get Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson are the children that you're referring to. Susie and Maddie and Tommy are brother and sister, is that right?
Right.
I believe that's
That's right. I remember those.
Brian Johnson and Jocelyn Turner are children of the one sibling that had passed.
Passed away.
To state it another way, there were 1, 2, 3, 4. One died, so we had 2 more added in, so there's 5.
Mhm.
But out of those, we've got 20, we need 100% participation, and we have 20% participation. After we went to the effort of going and writing them the letter and doing exactly what they've said that they wanted us to do repeatedly, and we've done it repeatedly. Not against doing it again, but this is the problem we've run into. We send them the information, they have the information, they say they didn't get the information, they want the information again, and it's now been supplied to them in a format that all they need to do is sign it and return it. I can't make it any more simple than that.
We did all we could do.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing else. I just need to know, so when you call me, I can say.
They have an 80% problem at this point on their end.
Well, okay, as long as I don't deal with what I can do.
Right. They have an 80% problem.
But they'll say I didn't do nothing.
Right. But the 80% of this problem, 80%, they've done 20% of their group has done what they need to do. 80% not. So 4 out of 5 have not done what they need to do. Now, they have all said they will.
Yeah.
And they all said they will get around to it.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
All right, moving along. Item number 16, EMA Director Kenny Calhoun requests that the following vehicle be declared surplus property and sold on Gov Deals. It's a 1977 Ford 8000 pumper. And if you hold on a second, I got pictures of it to help y'all. Vehicles in service, 1977.
Please with fire.
That's the vehicle we're talking about. So what's the board's pleasure?
I move that we put it on Gov Deals.
Do we put, question, does that money go back to them for equipment purposes, or where does that money go?
Okay, the money just goes back into this general fund, but the board has always been willing to allow the fire department to exceed their budgeted expense by whatever amount this vehicle brings in. So the money's made available back to the fire department.
I know we took out, because of some sales tax money, we took out their general fund capital expenditures this year. I'd like to make sure they.
That's sort of been our practice, is to make any fire trucks that we sell, surplus and sell, that money makes its way back available to the fire department.
Okay. There's been a motion and second. Do we have any other discussion on it? If not, all in favor by the show of hands. Okay, this motion carries.
And I'm guessing this was at the Pinehurst Fire Department, because that looks like
That's correct.
the old, yeah, that's what I thought. All right, so we took care of that. Item number 17, we've had a request that the county abandon Faber Road. And this is the red light in Vine. If you go out Highway 90 toward Lilly and turn left on Highway 27, that's Faber Road. It's a dirt road. It's a dead end dirt road. There's one house at the very end of it. And the person that owns the house is the one requesting, and supposedly the other landowners are in favor of it as well. So present that to y'all. If y'all vote to proceed, we will notify all the landowners that own property on that section of road and advertise a notice in the paper. Hold a public hearing to allow people to come comment for or against the proposed abandonment. And then at the end of that, if the board determines that that section of road no longer serves a substantial public purpose, y'all can vote to abandon it, which means it would no longer be considered part of the county road system. It's what folks commonly refer to as closing the road. We don't close, we abandon the road. So,
Which means that once you do that, and then the big flood comes, and they want your motor grader to come out there to use it to help them, you cannot do that without taking the road back. And then the question is, why would you take it back in that condition?
Well, in our process, don't we deed it back to the landowner? We don't.
Well, usually if it's never been deeded.
because there's no deed, it never got deeded
If it
to
were
us.
deeded, yes. If it weren't, no. But it becomes there. And you raise a very valid question that I wanted to ask is, how many landowners are we talking about? 3? 2?
Two.
Okay. All right.
On a house, this is just a general,
Her land goes run up.
Okay, so just leave her land. Okay.
Okay, so 2.
if you got a house at the end of it, is the house on the land?
She owns all the way to Highway 27.
Okay.
So she would not be landlocked from.
You'll just give her a driveway, basically.
Her intention is to make a long driveway. If you're not familiar with this road is right across the road from Slosh High,
Mhm.
and it's of the same material, red mud. So when you have your rains,
Jane.
when you have your rains, that's what you have is just a red sloppy road.
Okay.
That's in your district.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right across the woods. See what Tiger Road is?
I was gonna say, does this connect to you?
So y'all want to proceed with the,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, you're not taking any official action, you're just saying we're willing to go through the process, so.
There's no churches or cemeteries on this road. We know
No.
of yet.
No.
It's been a long time since we abandoned the road.
it has been.
It's been a minute.
Okay, and item number 18, we've had someone to inquire about the possibility of converting the subdivision on Cool Water Road into a gated community.
How many property owners are
That would be quite a few.
there? They would all have to be in agreement. 100% agreement.
I meant to have the map open, but I had some. Search.
What does that look like in a community? Is that still a public road?
Well, Mr. Barron, I'll address Mr. Nixon because I wanted to address it anyway. Thanks for asking. The issue is, thank you very much. It is a nightmare going forward because here's why. Everybody is for it for some reason right now, if 100% sign on. But the minute those roads need paving, because it becomes their responsibility, they have sold the house to someone else who bought it, conditioned upon that, but they don't agree to it at that point. Okay, I mean, it's done, but then they come back to you and want you to fix something, or you to come, can we borrow some county equipment? We've had this in Lee County and in the city of Leesburg, and we have one in the city of Leesburg, and we had a water main break. okay, recently. So then, you know, who's got the gate code? You know, and supposedly the fire department does, but then somebody didn't have the gate code for the water department, and they were mad about that. And so there's all kinds of problems that come up because we own the water main. Now, y'all don't have that issue in there, but I mean, there could be utilities and garbage collection and policing and fire protection. You know, how, we have a volunteer fire department. When there's a fire out there and they've got a gate, how they gonna get in? I don't know.
If you gate it, is it a public road or a private road?
Private.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, the location,
Yeah, cause I wanna know, I never heard of it
if you,
before.
if you go up Highway 41,
Uh-huh.
all right, that's the old AM radio station.
Uh-huh.
Right before you get to that, there's,
Make a left.
make left, go back in there, Lewis Mill. You're traveling down Lewis Mill, you make that sharp curve, and it's the first paved road to the left. It's a dead end road off of Lewis Mill. It's an L-shaped road like that right there.
Okay.
So right now you got,
No, you go back, go down.
well, I mean, that's Cool Water Road starts right there,
The gate would be there.
right there.
That's out there where you live at.
No, I'm over here on the dirt road.
He's on Morning Glory, but it's close to here, but he don't live on
I'm
Cool
on that dirt
Water.
road that needs some of that crushed
Right.
concrete on it.
Now, wait a minute, where that's talking about putting the gate, now, when you turn off of Lewis Mill, are there any driveways to go onto that road?
Yeah, but if you go out there, there's already an entrance there where I just said, it's a big rock entrance that says Cool Water Estates, and that's just that road. That's just that down in there.
So we be talking about 1, 2, 3,
Yes,
4,
three.
5, 6, 7 potential parcels.
7 parcels, 6 owners. One owns 2 parcels right there.
So 211 will be, Lisa Aiken,
Yes.
and 348 would be
Causes.
Causes, and that's the only 2 houses that are out there now.
Well, being built right there.
121 is built,
Rich,
registered where you're highlighted. There's a new house fixing to be completed there. And then at 320, there's a,
Is this your district? Do you know all the people who want it?
there, again, the question was,
Would it be public?
who does the road belong to at that point? I've seen this in Atlanta and stuff, but that could be HOA and it's never come up here. They were curious, I was curious. As to
And the issue is, once we go through the process of, we would have to go through the process of adopting an ordinance that would allow for such, that would take into consideration all the contingencies that I kind of mentioned, but tailored to our community with volunteer fire department, et cetera, and also whether any utilities are in there and how that's going to be addressed. So we'd have an ordinance adopted without anything on the table to do it. And then, once it's adopted, then they would make an application under that ordinance to apply to have it, abandoned and then made into a gated community. So then you'd have to have it abandoned, and then they would follow the terms of the ordinance and how they would deed it over. Typically, you require the people who are doing that to undergo the legal cost of preparing the ordinance and preparing the, all that, because otherwise it could be an expensive and expensive process for the city. When we did it in Lee County, we did it in 2 or 3 places at the same time, and the same law firm was behind the same developer in all 3 places and did it, in front of the cost to get it done. It was Tommy Coleman and his firm at the time. And so we really haven't had major problems with it, but every now and then the one on the side of the city, it comes up with, this, that, or the other, and since it's in the city, even though it's quote private property, we end up, having to patrol and, all that. And so that gets to be naughty, but it's covered in the ordinance. And so, and then sometimes there's feelings that people aren't patrolling as much, or they're not getting the services that they want, which is kind of funny in the sense that you close it off.
feel sorry for.
But what would you want to have a
I'm
gated
just-
anyway? I mean, I can't, I just don't
I think what started all this is I drove up there in my ratty truck to see Jack Warren one day, and they saw my ratty truck up there, and they didn't want people like me in their neighborhood.
Oh,
That's understandable.
yeah.
So do we go any further or?
No, I just wanna know, is it, who, in anything, I mean, future development, anything, is it a private road or is it a public road? That's the.
If on future development where you're gonna put everything in and you have this ordinance already in place, that's a good thing to have in place because then it has, conditions like if we had, county sewer and county water and all that, which we don't have at this point. Those types of things must be taken into consideration as to access and maintenance. And then you get into issues regarding, if the developer develops a subdivision anywhere with or without a gated community and they turn it over to us, and then there's a problem with those utilities, if we're also having a utility authority, and then who's gonna go fix the road, because everything's great at the beginning when the developer's selling it. Everything's great when the neighbors all want it. But when the money comes up, that's when everyone starts taking sides again, in my experience.
All right. Let's go back to the agenda here. All right, we
have two very high-powered zoning lawyers in the audience who are shaking their heads and rolling their eyes at the same time. And I think what they're saying is, if you don't have it, don't get it. And I don't know if that's what they're saying. They're not expressing an opinion on that, but you can count the rolling their eyes.
Okay, now we're gonna get here to have our public hearing on the zoning conditional use / variance on parcel 74-1. So
Why don't we go ahead with our stipulations and identify who the parties are before we get started? We'll wait till 10 so that anybody who wants to participate in the public discussion can, if that meets your approval, there's nothing else to do.
it's fine.
Measure.
All right, can I get the council to come up, please? Yes.
Letting me know the outcome. Thank you.
You're welcome, stick around.
Y'all come on, have a seat.
That was a good one, Steve.
You wanted me to remind you about the parcel on, Bradenwood?
Yeah.
You want me up here or down there?
Is there room for,
Put it right there for right now.
that'll be fine.
All right, just as a preliminary matter, going into the items that are on the agenda for the 10 a.m. public hearing, consideration of zoning conditional use and variance for parcel 74-1. Is there any objection? Let me ask you to both identify yourselves and who you represent.
My name is Ivy Cadle. I am an attorney at the law firm Baker Donaldson in Macon, and I represent Tillman Infrastructures and the applicant.
I'm Matthew Totten. I am an attorney for SBA Properties with the Totten firm. We're here as an interested party on behalf of SBA Properties.
Are there any other interested parties who wish to participate in the procedural discussion regarding notice and the stipulation of the planning commission? Now, we're going to ask about the substance later when we start at 10 o'clock. Anyone who's here who's not represented by one of the two gentlemen who are here. Okay? All right. That being said, is there any objection from either the applicant or the interested party as to the notice of the two matters that are before this body, the county commission, for the public hearing at 10 a.m.?
None from the applicant.
I haven't seen any of the stuff, but I have no objections as to notice at this time.
Okay. All right, no objection to notice, and if such a notice arises while we're in this hearing today, you will let us know so that we can security at that time.
Do we have the notice and information? He said he hadn't seen it, so if it's available, can we get a description of it or?
The,
I could go and get it off the folder.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
While he's doing that, let's move to the next issue. There was a stipulation at the planning commission, when we started, as to what would be covered, because both items have been applied for. Can you clarify that for us, since you're the applicant, what we talked about?
It is the applicant's position that the planning commission, at one meeting, approved or recommended approval of the conditional use application. At a subsequent meeting, the planning commission then approved the variance application.
And that was like a week ago.
That was a week ago, correct. So it's our position that both of those applications were properly before the planning commission. And the planning commission, from a procedural perspective, properly voted to approve those applications. And I'm gonna pause there and see if he disagrees with me.
I slightly disagree with that. Back in November, I believe, 2023, the Planning Commission recommended for approval the conditional use application. And then last week, there was a similar recommendation for approval of the variance. I believe the.
Can we stop right there, and we'll let you finish in just a moment?
Sure.
So we agreed that that's what happened. Is that the conditional use was heard in November, the variance was heard last week.
Yes, I think
Okay,
that's what I
whether
wrote.
that was right or wrong, we agreed we agreed after our stipulation, the three of us, last week, that we would not rehear the conditional use at the planning commission stage. Is that right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, because that would be redundant, and we were coming here today to discuss both. Is that, y'all understand?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, now, I stopped you, I want you to continue.
I think you covered it there.
Okay, so we're all in agreement, that's what the stipulation was there was no need to rehear last week the conditional use, but we're here today to hear all of it.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I would add that attorneys have a difference of interpretation of the ordinance. We believe the planning commission could approve the variance, the planning director could issue a building permit without further approval of the variance today. They believe that the variance has to be, that the planning director cannot issue a certificate of zoning compliance without the hearing here today. So we're going to do what
So
you.
the applicant says we don't need the county commission on the variance, everything was proper before.
Correct.
Had the application been filed.
Correct.
That's their difference. And what you're saying though, is you're not gonna stand in the way and object to both being heard today, just for clarity's sake. You prefer.
We would prefer not. We will participate in whatever the county commission wants us to do.
And your position is that both need to be approved, or that both need to be approved or denied today.
Correct.
Okay, and theoretically, if the conditional use is denied first, then there's really no reason for the approval of the variance.
Correct. I gotta prefer that everything just like if, let's just get it done, yeah. They decide what they decide, we'll go for
We'll give you a tall tower, we know where to put it.
it. Fair.
yes, the notice.
Okay, you want to tell us what the notice, or show them what the notice is?
This is the proof of advertisement notice in this package. This is the variance application permit, all supporting documents. This is the conditional use permit and all supporting documents. And this is the letters and all supporting documents from the attorneys.
So that's the whole record. This is just a
That's the whole-
notice.
That's the whole thing.
Okay. I think the only thing I've obviously made that available, but the only thing I would like to get out of the way is that we both agree that everything was properly noticed.
Yeah, I know we went over last go round for the planning. I just hadn't seen anything as to this particular meeting, but I'm not sure I'm not seeing it initially. But.
I think the notices got posted at the same time, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On the same sign, the picture of the sign there's got both notices on the sign.
And I guess since I have the whole pile here, I will note that I did send y'all a April 8th letter. That doesn't look like it's in this stack previously.
And speaking of that, we have an April 18th letter from Baker Donaldson reflecting the April 8th letter that was submitted. I don't think it's the April 8th for him. Is it in there?
His looks like it's in here. Mine does not appear to be.
All right.
Get that in there.
I think when I spoke with the zoning administrator after the hearing, he had an electronic copy, and maybe it just needs to be, do you have a copy of his letter from April the 8th?
I put it in the file here, it hadn't been scanned.
Okay, well, let's make sure it's in the record. Okay, and then this needs to be received in. Do you have another one today or not? Okay. You'll hand that over to Mr. Clayson. Mr. Chairman, I think we're ready to call the public hearing to order unless there's any more particular zone.
All right.
All right, why don't we just have both of them stay here, if that's okay? So not keep moving around and the speakers kind of speak there.
You turn that microphone on over there. Okay, so we should open up comments on. Okay, all right, we'll open up the public hearing. Is anybody here to speak in favor of the conditional use / variance?
I am. My name's Ivy Cadle. As I said earlier, I'm the law firm Baker Donaldson. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is represented today by Mr. Timothy Davis, who is here in the gray sweatshirt back there. And then the property owners, Mr. Bobby and Miss Sherry Griffin, they're here as well. I met somebody else.
Is anyone else that you know of coming in support of you and the three you identified?
I'm not aware of anyone else.
Mr. Thompson, do you have anyone here other than yourself?
Just myself, Matthew Totten on behalf of SBA Properties in opposition.
How much time do you anticipate?
10 minutes. 10 minutes or less.
I can stick with that as well.
If you want to just put a timer up and you reserve some for rebuttal, or
That's fine. I mean, I would ask if I'd probably 10 minutes to present the application. I'm just going to walk them through in 5 minutes or something like that. Okay. If I can get through it faster, then I will.
if we've got time, so as long as
Yeah.
we give everyone time, we've got some starting at 11, we would need some time for deliberation probably.
Okay. Hopeful that will not be a problem.
All right. You can proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. My name's Ivy Cadle. I'm an attorney at the law firm Baker Donaldson. My office is up in Macon. And I'm here today on behalf of Tillman Infrastructure, who is the applicant and the interested property owners, Bobby Griffin and Sherry Griffin. What we're here today is to talk about is a conditional use permit, which your zoning requires for a telecommunications tower. The tower that is proposed is a 325-foot guide telecommunications tower up at the far north end of the county, just about in Houston County. This tower will have a lightning rod on top of it. It'll be in a 10,000 square foot fenced compound, so it'll be fenced and secure. It will have ground equipment, and then there will be a 30-foot wide easement for access to the facility. The facilities are typically managed by somebody that goes there about once a month, so it's not going to really cause any additional traffic on your roads. Other than the fact it's a 325-foot guide tower, it's a pretty simple device that just sits there and broadcasts. There will be a 6-foot tall fence around the tower, and there will be an anti-climb device top the tower. It's a fabric style anti-climb device, so it won't be like barbed wire or anything, to help keep people from going out there and doing whatever folks do when they don't think anybody's watching. The tower is designed to propose 4 carriers. So that would, you could put, if you see some of these towers, they just got 1 carrier on top of it. Some of them have multiple carriers. It just depends on who needs to go where and who can negotiate a lease, which I expect you're going to hear a lot from about Mr. Totten. At the end of the day, kind of to simplify things, if you've got questions on the tower, I've got extra copies of the certificate of conditional use application. I'll kind of walk through some more. But I think what you're going to hear about today is that there is a nearby tower that opposes the installation of a second tower. This tower is, as I said, at the north end of the county. The area that it is in is largely agriculture, and this large tower would serve to service the interstate and then future development to the north. And SBA is here today to oppose it because they don't want a second tower in their market. They want to have a monopoly, and they're here today to protect that monopoly. And so that's, I think, what you're going to hear about. That's what we heard about in the Planning Commission. The tower is 325 foot tall. In the application, from a safety perspective, it could, in the unlikely event, just fall straight over, and it would not hit a house, and it would not depart the premises of the larger tract that it's on. So the landowner has decided to enter this lease, and they have plenty of room to protect the public should something go wrong with this tower. And there's a survey in the package that gives you the actual distances. I think the nearest thing that I'm reading is like 590 feet away is the nearest property line, if I'm reading that correctly. Not, there's one that's 496. So you got plenty of room between the top of the tower and the adjacent property line. The egress easement is just a straight shot. The property is more or less situated in the middle, or the tower is more or less situated in the middle of the property. You've been presented with a drawing that shows the 325 foot tower, kind of shows the profile elevation, so you just get a picture of what it looks like. It looks very similar to many of the other towers that you have in this community. When you talk about the other towers, I think you're going to hear about some proliferation of towers. I don't think that's a valid argument. I think this board decides how many towers there are. And it's 2 towers, 3 towers. At what point does it become too many? We would submit to you today that having 2 towers in a similar area allows for competition. It allows for different carriers to have the opportunity to go on one or the other, and it makes a market that kind of is the same way that you have 2 gas stations that'll be across the street from each other. And at the end of the day, that makes gas cheaper. That can make cellular telecommunications cheaper. Let providers update their equipment to better service. And so that's why we're here today. The fence is shown on here, and the road detail is also shown here. There will be vegetation. There'll be trees planted around the tower to screen it, so the fence, that compound area, will be screened. We've also shown coverage maps to show the before and after. Glenn Finney, who's a radio frequency engineer, has developed this. The tower is designed for a height to achieve significant coverage without being taller than it has to be. That is obviously a balancing act. If there was a hill where we could put the tower on, we would prefer to put it there, but this part of the world is just relatively flat, so you wind up with taller So we've shown you the demonstrated coverage. We believe that this tower meets the requirements of your ordinance. And for a conditional use that's addressed in Article 17, that has the criteria for conditional uses. We do not believe that the tower is contrary to the purpose of your zoning ordinance. We believe that we have designed the tower to meet the purpose of your zoning ordinance, which in this instance is to give infrastructure and provide an opportunity for different carriers to go on the tower. We do not believe that the use is detrimental to the health or safety of the neighborhood. This tower will not emit any sounds. It won't emit any noise. It will have the minimum lighting required by the FAA, which is traditionally a white strobe during the day and a red light, kind of slow flashing light at night, because that's less intrusive. We believe that the tower is on a piece of property that can accommodate it. In other words, the 325-foot tower is more than 325 feet away from any property line, so it doesn't pose any threat to the health or safety of the residents or any workers thereon. We don't think the proposed use is a nuisance or hazard. Again, there's no noise, there's no light. Vehicle movement will be limited. There's no fumes generated by this type of activity. We do not believe that the proposed use will adversely affect the existing agricultural and residential uses. In fact, I think it's at the zoning meeting or the planning commission meeting, we talked about how Houston County is coming down this way. I think you're better off to have the infrastructure in place so that when people come, you don't have a big neighborhood opposition because they built their house next to it, and that's what they chose to do. As you can see here, nobody's here today in opposition, so you don't have that type of phenomenon going on. Number 4 is the proposed lot is sufficient size to satisfy the space requirements. I've already talked about that. There are parking and development standards. There really is no parking. We've designed the compound to meet both your ordinance and the commercial standards. And so those are the requirements that are listed in your ordinance. We believe we have met those. And I think with that, I will reserve whatever time I may have left to respond. Unless somebody has questions. Yes, sir.
Where is the opposing tower?
Approximately where the
South
arrow
of
is on the
that?
plan.
It's, if you're looking at where the cursor, yep, it's right there on that square parcel, right there.
He's like 1,000 feet away, give or take.
There's one south of there too, isn't there? On Tharp Road.
Dark Road is gonna be right here.
Is it a cell tower or something?
It's that little block. So the opposing tower it already exists.
Yes. And to my knowledge, there are no other towers in there. They're suitable for a cellular antenna array at this height. Anything else?
What's the height of of course, you'll get into that, I'm sure, of your tower.
They're both the same height.
Same height?
Yes.
Okay,
What road is that?
sorry.
What road is that?
Okay, that's the county line. That's the county line road. This is,
Road where their tower
that's Busby
is.
Road. That's Busby Road. This is I-75. This is Highway 41. This is the Houston Dooley County line. All right, Mr. Todd.
Thank you, sir. Again, my name is Matthew Totten. I am here on behalf of SBA Properties, which is an interested party and am speaking in opposition to the proposed tower by Tillman Infrastructures. As highlighted, my client's tower is 325 feet tall. It's been there roughly for 25 years. It's a little bit less than a half mile away from the proposed tower. And it's further south and closer to Unadilla and the Dooley County population more generally. My client's tower is again, similarly in nature to the proposed tower. Right now, it has only one cell carrier on it, which is Verizon, which is also proposed as being the carrier on the applicant's tower. My client has ample space to meet future carrier needs. If there's a sudden rush to build out more infrastructure in the north of the county as Houston County moves south, my client's ready and able to support that infrastructure. As to Verizon most recently amended its contract with my client in May 2023, and it remains under contract to stay on my client's tower through February 2029. So, you all do have to evaluate the risk of there being, two duplicate towers and one being potentially vacant and fallow for a while if you did move forward with this. While Mr. Cadle certainly has a wonderful making draw, in reality, the applicant here is Tillman is a New York tower company, which itself describes it on its website as being, quote, the most prolific tower company in North America. If we're talking about proliferation, it's this, it's a rush to development and prolific development as they concede. And, as I believe the file and everything that y'all have heard before shows, this is an unnecessary tower and one that does not serve the public good and would be detrimental to the area. Just kind of as an overview of the process before y'all are two things today. One is the variance. Y'all's zoning ordinance prohibits anything being built over 40 feet tall in the zoning classification unless, it comes before y'all. That's part one. And the other thing, which I think you need to carefully weigh, is the conditional use request. While I appreciate Mr. Cadle's comparison of gas stations and competition, there are certain structures and certain improvements to a property which are of a degree in nature that are so unusual and so unique, they go before you for conditional use process. And this wireless tower application is one of those. So there are some heightened review standards that are set forth in y'all's ordinance under Article 17, Section 9. We've submitted ample documentation both within the variance and the conditional use applications that my client's tower is superior in many ways. Provides better cell coverage with Verizon at its existing spot than what's proposed on the applicant's tower. With my client's tower being further south in the county, closer to the population center in Dooley County, it provides stronger coverage. With it being oriented a little bit away from those timber tracks that are more to the east, it provides better and broader coverage because of that orientation. As highlighted here, the proposed tower would be built on the Houston County line, and as the applicant conceded here today, they're anticipating growth of Houston County south. But also, I think one thing for y'all to carefully evaluate is, why is this tower being proposed to be built in Dooley County with anticipated growth and from Houston County? And I would suggest to y'all that in tone and tenor of Tillman's being the most prolific tower development company in North America, it's because they're trying to avoid the stronger laws and closer review of an application like this in Houston County. Ultimately, when y'all are reviewing this application, there's 14 specific requirements you need to consider, both within Section 9 of the conditional use and then the Section 11 for the variances. And it's clear that the application doesn't meet those standards, and y'all must deny it. Particularly, just to highlight a few portions under the conditional use provisions under the ordinance, the proposed tower would certainly be detrimental to growth within Dooley County in the northern part of the county, as it would add duplicate and unnecessary services which would not be oriented to serve Dooley County. If y'all are anticipating growth from the population centers out, my client's tower better serves any of that current population or anticipated growth. Additionally, when we're kind of looking at the variance, some of the variance provisions, there's nothing unique or extraordinary about this property where the tower is proposed. That's one of the requirements there that you all need to consider. And quite frankly, this is very similar to many other agricultural tracts in the county and in this area. Because of the strict nature of how you apply variances, if you all start approving a request such as this, you very much touch on potentially being in spot zoning, which has some problems under Georgia law. Additionally, the proposed tower would cause substantial detriment to the public good, including adding the duplicate nature of and unnecessary services within the county, potentially bringing unwanted or unplanned development into that portion of the county before you all have something like subdivision ordinances on the books. Once you guys build that infrastructure, you certainly have to be aware that there could be a rush of development before you all are situated, to make sure that's good, proper, and orderly development that you all can sustain in the county. Further, this would negatively affect land values within Dooley County. If this is designed to harbor and serve anticipated growth in Houston County, let it be built there. Because ultimately, just similar as building a sewer plant in a certain area, the proximity that's going to more negatively affect the property value as opposed to being in the area that's served. So if y'all are trying to be a veteran community for Houston County, certainly. But I would suggest if you're trying to serve Houston County growth, let Houston County take care of that. Ultimately, there's no public benefit and there's no redeeming qualities within this application. I would therefore ask for y'all to move to deny the variance and conditional use application, including for reasons detailed in my April 8th letter on behalf of SBA, especially since this proposed tower is detrimental to the public good and the general neighborhood of Dooley County. Thank you.
Okay.
Rebuttal. Question.
Question.
No, go ahead.
Value of your tower,
I don't have a value
value of your new tower.
I don't have it, but it certainly has the tax roll. It'd be about the
That's
same.
what I'm asking. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
But y'all not prepared to tell us that today.
I mean, I don't know.
What is that?
Yeah,
I mean, I can pull it up on.
Permit
the
has not been
taxes.
applied for yet, so we don't have the cost that's been submitted.
Next thing is depreciation. Can you share anything with depreciation? I know what happens to solar.
I mean, that'd be up to you tax assessor. I'd hate to step into their shoes.
Well, I think is a tower taxed like commercial business property or a structure? We're all learning here today.
Well, looking at the key public, is this your tower?
it is.
So the value of your tower is $19,200?
That's what it appears. That's
So-
how it was assessed.
So it's not a huge tax. Y'all aren't paying a lot of tax on the tower. But you wouldn't be either.
It depends. You have a tax assessor who is responsible for updating this and assessing it. So I can guarantee you there's more than $28,000 worth of equipment out there. I don't have a budget because that gets into kind of what technology goes on at the time, that kind of thing. So
What's the total value on the car?
$658.
I haven't, in doing this, I haven't read any kind of exemption or anything. Like, so solar can get different tax credits and none of that. None of those forces are at play to my knowledge.
Gotcha.
It looks like the accessory value was just brought up to 2027-6 in this last tax year when they were reevaluated, but that reflects, it said a 2010 tower they were valued, but you said at the planning commission that your tower was put in your company took over the tower in 1999, it was put in 1997. So, you know, something's not quite adding up there. That may be missing part of it.
It's been there for at least 25 years, I think. We nailed that down.
What would be, you said something about the rules would be different for Dooley and Houston. What would be the difference in the rules for it's like zoning requirements or whatever rules you're referring to?
So I'll say generally, you know, every county municipality is a little bit different. Some have specific requirements that are specific to telecommunications towers. You know, they might have, you know, for instance, depending on where it is, they might have certain height limitations, or if they're going to build one, say it needs to be looking like I'm sure you might have seen this before, looking like an artificial tree, or wrapped in a cylinder to prevent some of the sight effects of you know, having all those antennas sticking off. But generally, they can range from aesthetics to showing that there is more of a need for it than just the standard thing. Something like, you know, whether it's showing that there's no technological alternative, showing that there's no other structures that can support that. It's kind of a balance between, you know, a kind of an open, you know, gold rush sort of situation to having, you know, design and concentration limitations on the number of cell towers that might be in an area.
So I've done zoning in Houston County for a cell tower, and their process is very similar.
It's simple. That's what I'm thinking.
They require
Maybe
conditional
the
use
land might be a little
application.
higher, but everything else should be pretty much the
I
same.
have appeared before their planning commission, just like I did here, and I have appeared before their county commission, just like I have here. So this is, SBA is one of the largest tower companies in the world. This is an economic issue.
What you saying, Mr. Lawyer?
I got a question. With you having one carrier and you said that you all renewed a lease to 2029,
Yes, sir.
what's the opposition for if you've had a long-standing relationship with that carrier? What's changed in this business model to make this competitive like this of you know, you're not a landowner next door opposing this, you're somebody down the road that has and I thought Verizon might be throwing this up in the air, but you said you're locked in until 2029 with them.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not gonna hold their bad service in Unadilla against you, but what's changed? Something's changed for this to be this competitive.
So you see this in I mean, this is not my first encounter with Mr. Cadle or his firm at other places here in South Georgia. You know, frequently it's a question of, you know, I guess the best example is if you're shopping for a box of mac and cheese, you know, maybe Walmart has it at 99 cents and you want to see if you can go get it at Dollar General for 95 cents. But in this situation, you know, instead of it being a box of mac and cheese that you're price shopping, it's something where you're talking about something that rises to such height and impact on a community that, you know, they're having to go through this process. And that's part of the reason why y'all are here, you know, to examine, you know, is this marginal impact, you know, something that moves the needle despite all the other issues and concerns here. And, you know, you frequently hear the economic, you know, arguments from, you know, proposed towers. The fact of the matter is that going to come down to y'all's bottom lines? Are you going to see, you know, a nickel decrease in your cell phone bill? No. So, you know, for y'all's purposes, it's really a question of, is the coverage improved? Do we have a need for multiple towers this size? And I would submit, you know, again, that there's no public good, there's no public benefit for this proposed tower.
You've been there.
Can I respond to that? I think the actual answer to your question is that there's been a change in kind of the business models of both entities. I think
Both entities.
the SBA, the tower owner, and then the provider rents space and the equipment down below. And what the change I think I have seen has been that the tower company has figured out how to use ordinances to prevent competition so that they can hold tenants on their towers to higher costs. Say if you want to put a upgraded antenna on it, then there's a change cost. And those costs have gotten to the point where providers like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, whoever, have said that it's worth giving a different tower company the option to come into the market so that they can put newer equipment on the tower at lower cost. I think that's what's changed. Like, cause you had LTE or whatever for forever, it feels like, and now you got 5G, and kind of that technological change is obviously increasing the rate of change. And so I think, yeah, is there at least the 2029? Yes. But I think in order to make way for different providers, because ideally, so what's in it for the county? Because ideally for the county, you could get T-Mobile, AT&T, Fast Talk, whoever you want hung on these towers so that your citizens have as many options as possible for cellular coverage so that they can go pick the low cost plan that whoever offers that applies to how they use their phone the best.
But it sounds like Verizon's a player in this because they've been there 25 years.
Correct.
And they've got one carrier on that tower.
So I would submit that whatever contractual obligation Verizon has to SBA, they have it. So if that's true, that's true. But they've also.
You're gambling, you're gambling that you'll be able to compete for that contract in 2030.
Or they could add a second antenna array to this tower. I mean, my expectation is they'll add a second array to this tower. So this tower can go live and qualify. And they're betting on the future because they're willing to pay, assuming his contract's correct, my contract's correct, they're betting on paying double rent.
Yeah. Okay, we have 6 criteria that we're going to consider, and y'all both address those as I understand it.
Yes.
Okay, there's 6 criteria, but they don't add up to 75. But Interstate 75 is what's right in the middle of this. And everyone keeps saying Houston County, Dooley County, but we all know that driving up down, that your cell coverage is better going up and down a main road than it is on a secondary road. If anybody don't believe me, drive from here to Albany, you'll lose your coverage, okay? And so we know that's also a motivating factor for everyone. That hasn't been mentioned, okay? Now that divides our county right down the middle, but one tower is on one side of 75 and one's on the other side of 75. Now, again, 1 through 6 doesn't add up to 75, but that's what we're not talking about here. Secondarily, you mentioned something about zoning and all that. I want to clarify. I think it's been clarified. When you were giving your example about what Houston County might require, or why they might not want it and all that, you're not saying that you're familiar with the zoning in Houston County enough to say that they would require those, for instance, like tree-like towers, are you?
I was suggesting generally what the difference might be amongst jurisdictions.
Right, but you don't know that to get back to that.
Well, I did not bring the certified copy of the house.
Okay, right, and you've not read it to see that.
I've not put that in, no.
Okay, all right, and when we talk about trees, I drive down into Florida. When I get into Florida, I notice something different about the cell towers. I notice they have these things that feel like this, like an umbrella. Maybe there's netting up there, probably for some birds or something like that. I don't know what that's called, but I'm thinking when you say tree, that's what comes to my mind. Is that what you're talking about?
No, if you literally look in some of the communities, they look like artificially tall pine trees.
No,
125 foot, 150 foot tall.
Yeah.
like a redwood tree in California.
Yeah.
Basically.
And
Okay, well,
Does
we
yours
have,
look like a tree?
No.
neither of these are proposed to look like a tree, nor with the engineering work.
but Houston County requires them to look like a tree.
The last one I zoned in Houston County did not look like a tree.
All right, well, that aside, my last issue is back to the 1 through 6, and this goes, both of you can address it, but I'll ask Mr. Taunton. Your tower went in 20 25 plus years ago. 97 for Cellular One, then it became bought out by Verizon in 99, roughly is what I think was discussed at the planning commission. I may be wrong on those dates, but I'm in that general ballpark. Assuming that the zoning was adopted in 1995, the same year that your client purchased the property to put that tower there, and assuming there have been those substantial changes to the zoning and the criteria in section 6 that we're all familiar with was in place in that time, and at that time, which I don't think there's any evidence that it wasn't, all the arguments that you make regarding why we shouldn't do this, would those have also been applicable to your client at that time?
I don't think that's germane. Specifically, the county ordinances says that that's not germane. Article 17, Section 10 says that the existing use of a neighboring building, land, buildings, or structures of the same district shall not constitute a reason for the requested variance. So, whether my client, had to satisfy the exact same conditions or not, I don't think it's germane and should not be considered by y'all in evaluating this application. This application is required to sink or swim based on its own merits. And, for the reasons I've detailed so far, it pretty clearly sinks.
Well, you put it in that posture. Let me put it in this posture. Quite frankly, if all those things were true, okay, and we're not required to do all that, and that the things that you're saying would devalue property and so forth and all that, those were your arguments. Did that in fact occur with your client over the past 25 years?
I mean, that's a lot of ifs there. That's carrying weight. Again, but that ultimately, that's not something that can or would probably be considered by this commission based on y'all's own ordinance.
Can I clarify something on the variance? On the variance, if you go look in the actual building code, the 40-foot tall requirement is really just kind of the general C2 zoning. So it looks like it's more intended for buildings. And so we applied for the variance because they objected over the variance. But ultimately, in order to have any sort of cellular antenna, every cellular antenna in this community would need a variance. The attorney Gregory, the landowners here, and I think we just omitted to give them an opportunity to say anything if they'd like to. Do you mind if they?
You have your side has about a minute and 15 seconds left to rebuttal.
Do y'all have anything you want to say? We only got a minute and 15 seconds, so be quick. I want to sum this up with 2 or 3 sentences.
I just want to thank y'all for considering this, and I hope and pray y'all do approve it. I think it'd be an asset to not just, we stay in Houston County, but I think it'd be an asset to Dooley County.
Yeah.
And where it's located, it's going to be an asset to a lot of people coming up down that interstate. And I just thank y'all for considering it and appreciate your time.
And you're Mr. Bobby Griffin, correct?
Correct.
So just in summary, the planning commission voted to approve this in November. We came back before them with the exact same proposal in April. They did not change their mind. So they voted to recommend that you approve it. We don't think it's detrimental. We think the contract matter is separate. This would serve a significant percentage of Dooley County. It would be a public benefit. It meets the requirements for the variance. It conforms with the zoning. It meets for the COE. So I would ask for someone to enter a motion in favor to second for a second of that motion, and that you all vote for the tower. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, think so.
Well, our chairman stepped out for a second.
Wait till he gets back.
Can we ask a question about the planning, not to them, just generally with Glenn? Was there any objections from anybody else at the planning commission meeting?
You get the question, Glenn?
Yes, the records show that there was 10 for and 1 against. The 1 against was the attorney.
I think their public hearing is basically closed, and now we're ready for the board to entertain a motion. There is a motion.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I so move that we
go along with the planning, committee and accept this recommendation for the variance
To approve the variance and the conditional
and the
use.
condition. Yes, sir.
Okay, and what are y'all basing that on?
What am I basing it
Well,
on?
that's just the motion right now. You have to wait for a second or
Well,
clarify the motion.
clarify the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why don't you guide them along and make sure that we wording it right before we make the motion, so, we won't be leaving out anything that, that should have been put in the beginning.
Well, what I would prefer y'all do is just make the motion going, in sync with your, requirements.
Okay, so make the motion.
But you got a list, the one there that says the criteria for consideration of a variance request.
What number is that?
Yes, section 11, yes.
So you want me to read all that?
No,
Just give me the facts to go along with it, so I think what you need to put the phone to.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve this, variance request, pertaining to section 11, the criteria for consideration of the variance request. I would say that it meets all the, my first time reading it so fast, but trying to figure out which one it don't. But I just make a motion that we approve the variance for considering the section 11, the criteria, for consideration of the variance request. Is that enough?
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Are there any, before we get into discussion, does any member of the board have any amendments they wish to add specifically to their thoughts as to what might be making a decision?
Do we have any amendments?
I do.
Okay, then.
I believe, competition is good in every part of our society. I think, and I hope the future will show that we're entering into an age where we're gonna see a very competitive use of these towers. And I see nothing detrimental about having more than one tower in the north end of the county there.
Anybody else? Tim?
One thing I gotta say I gotta go with my landowner. We got some landowners up there and that's what they wanted.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go with them.
Anyone else? Before we vote on it?
I'll just reiterate the motion of saying that all the criteria has been met for both the conditional use and the variance based on our ordinances.
Okay. All in favor, by the show of hands? That motion carries.
Okay. Our next item is the appeal, Mr. Bullard's appeal, and that's on the agenda for 11 o'clock. We got just a few minutes before that comes up. Do you want to talk about the campus and the trading issue?
Yeah. I think that needs, it's been brought to our attention this week. I know I've had calls and Glenn has, been down there. I've been down there. I didn't literally go on the property, but I met with a concerned, neighbor about what's taking place down there. And, Glenn, can you kind of bring us up to speed as far as?
Yeah, the parcel is 10A-20 on Drayton Wood. I've spoken with both neighbors. The one you're looking at there is 10A-19. That's Michelle Simmons. She's a single lady that lives there. So
This is on Drayton Woods Road, which is, this is the Flint River. And that's the bridge on Highway 27. So if you know, there's a road that circles back up under, come down here, come down to it, come on around. And this is the parcel we're actually talking about right there. I'm sorry, go ahead now, Glenn.
Thank you. I got a phone call actually on Friday last week from Kenny Calhoun. He had been contacted by Jimmy, which is at lot at 2822-360. He contacted Kenny. Kenny called me and said, "Do you have any permits for a building going on Drayton Woods?" And I looked in the records and I said, "No, we do not." He said, "Well, I've got a phone call. I'm going down to see what it is. I'll update you." And Monday, he called me and he had told me that it looks like they're clearing out some trees. I told him they cannot change the topography because that will affect the flood zone, causing water to shed onto the other neighbors. And so he relayed that to me. They're not supposed to change the topography. And then I got a phone call from both neighbors that some construction's going in, they're digging holes and putting stuff in the ground. And they were concerned and asked me to go out. And that was at the end of the day on Tuesday. So Tuesday at 4 o'clock, I went out, I took pictures. They had put a septic type system in the ground and had it all covered up except for a access port. I saw two cleanouts that were up at opposing directions, one very close to the neighbor's property line, the other one about midway. And so I took pictures of that. At that time, it looked like some fresh dirt had been brought in and spread out on the property. And so I contacted both of the owners and told the opposing owners that had complaints, said I put a stop work order on the vehicle that was there. And then on Tuesday late afternoon, I guess the person that is putting in all the work did come to the office at 4:45. He did not give his name. He said, "I got a stop work order. What's that for?" And I said, "Well, we don't know what's going on. We see dirt being moved, and there's several rules and regulations during the floodplain. You can't just do what you want." And he said, "Well, we're just putting in some septics for RVs." And I said, "Well, you didn't get a permit for septics because I checked with the health department, so I know those aren't to code and standard." He goes, "Well, they're just tanks, so that way we can just pump them out when we can fill them up." And so I contacted Josh Jones at the health department to find out a bit more information about those type of tanks. He said they're actually very poor to put in a flood zone because as soon as it floods, they pop up and go down, and then they dump all their liquid as they flow downstream. He said, so they don't even permit them at all. And when they're done, they're always done, it's called bootleg, done without any type of oversight, so that somebody can try to get what they want. I informed them at the desk that this is an R2 district. I said, if you have a home, you can park your RV next to it, but it cannot be your primary residence. I said, but so you can't do that. And so I said, if you'd like to apply for a permit and begin the process, and he goes, well, we're going to get electric. He took my card and left. Didn't want to talk anymore and just left. I got a phone call about 15 minutes after they were left. Right at 5 o'clock, Michelle called and said, they just dumped 3 loads of dirt on the ground, 3 more loads, and they're spreading it out. And that was at 5 o'clock. Went back and asked Steve, do you want me to go down and put a stop order? He said, no, wait till the next day. So I did. Went down the next day. There was 2 additional loads. And according to Jimmy, they've carried 6 loads of dirt in, and they have changed the topography dramatically. So their concern is it's going to cause the water from the river when it floods, not if it floods, because it floods regularly at that area, to shed quite a bit more water over into their homes, causing damage. And so they want to know, what can they do? What rights do they have? And so I said I will get in contact with Steve, and Steve asked me to share with you this information so that you could give me directives on what I need to do from here forward.
We're talking about a local. Who are these people?
I think the website shows the folks out of Warner Robins. There's two.
Is
There's
this
two
Buddy's?
plots there and less than an acre. So, it's just, and where it's at, I see no way to have a well and a septic tank. So anything that's done is gonna be illegal, I'm sure.
And I did, see if I may, I did speak to Josh about that, and they have to make what's called a non-conforming system, because they do not meet what's present standard, but they were already broken up. And so they have to make a non-conforming septic system to fit. And they have to take in consideration the other people's, and one of the places they plan on dumping is less than 100 feet from their well presently.
Come on, that's it, come on, but, you said non-conforming, okay, I thought I knew everything about that kind of stuff. What do you mean?
Non-conforming is there's specialty units that are made called sand mounds, or actually the septic system is above ground.
Mhm.
And then they bring in dirt on top of it, and it actually has a pump to pump it out to cause it, forces it to operate. That's one of the non-conforming ones. There's several of them that are out there, but they'll have to get the ground tested and everything to do that. But here's the problem: by getting a sand mound, you're changing the topography, and that in itself is a problem. So it's a very difficult situation to work with.
Yeah. Okay, I got you now. Y'all were just using a different term. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, what about the well? I mean, how many feet you had to be from that septic system in the well?
I can't catch the words you're saying.
The existing well, her existing
the well.
well.
Her well is very close to the river, and about 40 feet from the well is where they have the first drain coming in, already in place to carry off sewage, which means they're going to be dumping sewage right 40 foot from her well. And there's no secure way that you're going to not have spillage.
Well, now what are the rest of the people doing down there? Do they have that same problem?
Most of the people have the well close to the river and their septic close to the street. So there's very far apart. They've got you've got the distance and length that you can get your well and water apart. And so they have kind of fit that way.
But this lot, I mean, before they brought dirt in here, I mean, there's holes half the size of this room in there, and I just don't see how you put anything in there legally and it perk and do what needs to be done and be safe for everyone.
Agreed.
But see, they supposed to get a perk. They're supposed to have the ground perk first before they even put the septic there.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
They've gone completely out of order.
Now, they're from, these people that's doing the work, they from Houston County, you think? Or?
Yeah, again, he didn't give his name. I don't know if the fellow that was here is the owner or not. I was given the name of Don Huddleston by the neighbor. Is that the same person? Okay. She said that's the owner, but I don't know if that's who came up and spoke to me.
I don't think so. I
He
think they
wouldn't
just
give
doing
his
the
name.
work for him. But they had really nice equipment, so it appears that they do work. But I don't think they would be doing this type work in Houston County.
No.
Or Warner Robins.
For sure.
So they come into our community where they feel like permitting and all is lax, and they can pretty much get this done. But the problem is it's so close to neighbors that someone's seeing what they're doing.
Do you put up a sign, say, stop and cease, or cease and stop, whatever?
I put a stop work order. I didn't put
paper on
a
the building,
decease because I don't have the authority to do that. I have to have the permission of the commissioners to have a cease and desist order.
Okay, well, that's what you need to do then.
Mm-hmm. But like, I mean, they
They're
need to
not
get in
gonna follow
line.
the rules.
Yeah, they exactly.
They're breaking it now. They're gonna continue to break it.
So how would he do that, Steve? Do cease and desist where?
Well, I reckon y'all could vote to authorize him to, in this particular case, to go put a
Cease and desist.
cease and desist.
And then if they do something else, then the sheriff will get involved.
And if they violate that, at that point, I can then, by your order, I can have the sheriff, from previous conditions that we've had, we have the sheriff issue them a summons to appear in magistrate court, and then I would take them to court as I did the previous people, in which we were able to win judgment because we followed procedure.
You heard that, Mr.
But-
Lawyer?
But the end game is, what, they've already played the hand. What they're doing is they're trying to get this set where they can bring campers in there.
Yes, sir.
And and that's been a nightmare for us down there, but this particular, I don't know if you'd refer to that as a subdivision, but it's a neighborhood and the nicer homes in that part of our county down there on that river are in that subdivision or that area right there where you see those homes. And I don't believe they're gonna be wanting campers in there next door.
We want to do a cease and desist.
They want to authorize Glenn to issue a cease and desist order for that one part, for non-conforming work that's currently going on in that parcel.
Right, but I want Glenn to submit it to you, and you and I talked about it, and then he sent it.
Okay.
Okay, so you review it, we'll review it, and then he gives okay to do it.
Okay. Y'all understand the motion?
Before we do
it. Somebody, yeah. Wait, y'all authorize him to do it, but.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we do a cease and desist. You have permission.
There has been motion and second. Anybody that's around the table got any other discussion on it before we vote on it? If not, all in favor by the show of hands? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you get that out today? After y'all look at it? Mr. Chairman,
I'll get it together and present it to Steve shortly after lunch.
I might have missed, that's fine, the cease and desist. Do they have to undo everything they've done? Is that the end game and something like that?
Theoretically, once they cease and desist, then they stop what they're doing right then, and they're not to continue it until they get appropriate approval to do it. If they don't get appropriate approval to do it, because it's not possible, then they would not be able to continue it. Now, it's gonna be a cat and mouse game from then on because it's already done. In order to require them to remove what they've got, probably then end up in Superior Court with an injunction. And then you've got, once the judge issues an injunction, you've got to then go out to enforce it. So, when people set out to violate the rules, they don't intend to follow any rules, including that of the rule of law.
While we're waiting, can I pray?
Yes.
At the Chamber of Commerce banquet last week, which was April 10th, you all were presented with these plaques of Dillon County Board of Commissioners for superior leadership qualities. And they showed their appreciation by presenting you all these awards and the public service for the employees of the Dillon County Board of Commissioners as well.
And Miss Linda also got an award.
What'd you get?
I got the ripple effect.
What's that?
Oh.
What ripple? That's that wine?
Huh? No, just a person who's effective about encouraging.
I know what it is.
Okay, you know what it was then, okay?
In other words, her brightness shines throughout the entire county
Yes,
as a result of her leadership.
yes.
As she wears her bright orange today.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, congratulations to you.
So Steve, where do we hang the plaques and things at, man?
We'll work on that.
Okay.
All right, it's 10:59. They have a appeal scheduled for 11 o'clock, so we'll wait just a minute and then we'll.
The appeals process is just questioning the original process, just the process, not the
original decision.
The decision or the process from which we made it.
Process that was made.
How long is Somerville Road? It's less than a mile?
Oh, no, Somerville Road is like 5 miles.
Oh, I thought you said earlier that.
From that driveway.
You're talking about what I've been talking about.
Uh-huh.
From the driveway to pay, it was like 1.1.
Oh.
That road
I'm
almost-
saying it's $30,000 to do a mile. So we got plenty of money. I mean, we need to do that. We definitely need to do Heath.
I keep saying Cinderella, it's Heath.
It's Heath.
I hadn't measured it, I measured.
Mr. Barron?
Yes.
It's now 11 o'clock.
Okay.
There's been noticed an appeal that has been advertised. The appeal has been appropriately noticed. The appeal, the appellate is represented by counsel, Mr. King. Mr. King has rescheduled his hearing on 3 different occasions, or 2 occasions, due to conflicts that were with the Superior Court, one in Dooley County, then in Crisp County. He notified that there will be an issue as his timeliness getting here today by 11 o'clock by an email to you as presiding officer that was copied to me and to Ms. Woodson and I believe Mr. Sanders. Mr. Bullard, his client, is here, and I asked Mr. Bullard when he came in at 10:45 if he had heard from his attorney, and he stated at that time that his attorney was running a few minutes late. Is that still the case, Mr. Bullard? Right. Have you talked to him since I asked you that at 10:45? No. Do you have any estimate of time as to when he might arrive?
No, I don't.
Did he say it'll be before lunch?
He didn't say it all. I talked to him around 9. He said he was at court. He was probably a little bit late. He was gonna try to ask the judge, could
Okay.
he leave there and come back?
Having noticed the hearing, we must go forward with it for the time. And so what is before you is an appeal, and the appeal is not of the original, is not of the entirety of the decision. The appeal is under your appeal section, which is an appeal by a person, firm, corporation, or by any officer, department, board, or bureau that may be taken to the Dooley County Board of Commissioners, this body, where it is alleged that there is an error in any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by the zoning administrator, Glenn, or other administrative official in the enforcement and interpretation of this order, of this ordinance. Such appeals must be made within 30 days. It is my position that the appeal was timely made. I don't know that it was made here in open hearing at the beginning of the consideration of the public hearing in this matter. And I think that the appeal would be proper. The appeal that I think that they want is an appeal of the entirety of the decision of the planning commission and this body, which would be the Superior Court. But since they raised an appeal, this is the one that's available. And we got a letter stating what some of those particulars were, but they were not specific in my reading as to any particular specific error. So that is why we're here to hear that, but there's no one here to present that. And Mr. Bullard is the one who made that, and you may want to hear from him as to his appeal and whether or not he wishes, what his position is on that. My position on behalf of the county is that we're here. We've noticed it. This is the 3rd time. And, there is a process that was outlined to go through and get, permission to be 2 different places. And we're here for the 3rd time. What's the play?
So we move forward with, everybody was noticed and everybody's here.
All right, is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I make a motion, we move forward with the
Appeal.
appeal.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, it has been motion and second. Do anybody else have any discussion on it before we move forward with the appeal? If not, all in favor by the show of hands? Okay, that motion carries then.
Unanimous.
Yeah, unanimous. Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman Barrett, would you recognize the appellant, Mr. Bullard?
Mr. Bullock?
Yeah.
The chair is yours. Y'all need to present what your case is, okay, I'm gonna let them handle it.
Do you want to address the board about the appeal? Or do you want to defer to your attorney?
I want to defer to my attorney. I got a hired attorney. He speaks for me, so I'd rather defer to my attorney.
All right, is there anybody else who's here on behalf of, is there anything else you want to say? Or you want to defer to him?
To my attorney.
If you'll have a seat back there. Is there anyone else here who's here to? I don't know if there's anything else to hear. It's not a public hearing at this point. He's deferring to his attorney to present the appeal. We know what the issue is a timely issue, so there's been a motion to proceed. The question is what does the board wish to do? You've now gone forward to hear his position. He wants his attorney to speak. Do you want to grant the appeal? Do you want to deny the appeal? Do you want to continue the matter?
My personal opinion about it is, I guess he said it right in my opinion. I know it's been 3 times already. This will be the 3rd time. But if he got a hired attorney and want to make a specific statement, I can't see the reason why we can't.
Well, my only thing is we notice it to everybody here, and we're gonna drag them out one more time of,
well,
wouldn't everybody noticed?
Yes. I think we're required to notify all the landowners within 300 feet and post a sign on the property, and we did. So.
Would he consider calling his attorney again and getting an estimate?
That was gonna be my next, to see where he is.
Will you call your attorney and?
I need to step out.
Yeah.
I think, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that I don't disagree with either Mr. Mixon or Mr. Barron in the position that we find ourselves in. Okay, the man is represented by an attorney. He's paid an attorney, and the attorney has legitimate conflicts. However, when balancing this as a board, and listening for the appeal, what was raised to Ms. Woodson, I believe, who brought it to my attention, is that when we continued this the first time, I believe someone had come, or maybe it was the second time, someone had come from out of state to be here and had traveled some distance from Florida or somewhere, and someone else had traveled another couple of hours to be here for that, and we, in all fairness, the benefit of the doubt has been given the first time without even considering this body out of courtesy. The second time we went through a formal process so that we would have documentation, and it was a legitimate, confirmed reason not to be here. And I think that the same is true today. I don't have any doubt that Mr. King is in the Superior Court of Griffith County, where he has a criminal matter which would normally take precedence over civil matters if it were, brought to the attention of both courts, the court and this body. I think that any judge down there, if this body were to reach out to one of those judges going forward and say, look, can we have a special time to protect this? Because we can't, as a body politic, keep noticing the public at expense to the taxpayers and at expense out of their pocket to keep traveling up here. Can we have some time when we know when he can be available? That's one option. The other option is you're going to have to, as a body, decide when you're going to hold a hearing that would be available for Mr. King. We did check to see if this time would be available for Mr. King. I spoke with his assistant at Linda's suggestion, and we asked, when is it available for you? And we gave a couple of dates, and they came back with this was a date that was available to avoid that. So I don't know what else I can do on this end to prevent the same thing from happening again. I will say that at the Planning Commission, it was asked about where we were in this status, and that is not of our concern, and not of their concern. I let them know that, but they were concerned about the number of times it had been appealed, and I explained to them there were all legitimate reasons, and that is not their business once they make their decision, with all due respect.
Okay, but now what I meant was, when I said what I did, I wasn't talking about putting it off to another day. I'm just talking about this later today,
Okay.
to give him the opportunity, to try to get here.
Right.
In case he might have car trouble, whatever. You don't never know.
Right.
And that's what I meant
Yeah,
when
I
I
just
said
wanted-
what I did.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Mhm.
Okay, I agree that that you don't need to take a drastic step. I also agree with Mr. Nixon that it's noticed at this time, and there are people here who, I think, how many people are here in opposition to this? Stand up if you're in opposition. Okay, all right, and if you will, just state your name and where you traveled from today.
William McIntyre, I live local.
Okay,
Really on stuff. Out of Walters, local, Laura Swain, Tampa, Florida.
Michael St. Tampa, Florida.
okay, if you'll be having a seat, please. All right, so Tampa, Florida, last time I went 5 hours one way without traffic. Okay, so have y'all made, the people from Tampa, have you made trips up here before for the hearing in here? Just, that's a consideration that you need to be aware of. But I just wanted it all out there. Now, that being said, you asked the gentleman to step out, make a phone call.
What did he?
He didn't answer, but he texted and said he would be here before lunch. He said he's still in court.
Well, then, if I may, make sure I'm still in order. Well, what's the pleasure of the board? How do y'all, do y'all want to wait or go on with it, or give his attorney an opportunity to come, or what?
If and when he gets here, how long, what's the time of him, what's the time of the appeal? Is there a length of time on the appeal of him presenting his appeal?
Well, I don't know what issues he's going to appeal. We don't have a time limit for it per se, but it depends on if he's got one error or 10.
Well, I've seen the list. It's more than one.
But I don't know if those all relate to the subject matter that are mentioned in 13.
Last, we gave those attorneys 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a limit? I mean, we can limit the.
I'd say 10 to 15 minutes, reasonable.
What's the next process?
And what I would say, the next process, so 10 minutes to 15 minutes, generally in an appeal before an appellate court, the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, or even in some superior courts, you state at the beginning how much time do you need, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or I make a motion for extraordinary time because I have so much. And then the body hearing the appeal grants you how much time you're gonna need. So 15 is not unconventional, 10 is not unconventional. And with these gentlemen, we asked and they both agreed they could do it within 10 minutes, and they kept their remarks limited to that. Now, back to your issue, you make an application, okay, and the application from the zoning, I'll just walk us all the way through the process as I understand it, and correct me if we have any misunderstanding. An applicant comes in and asks for, to appeal, to apply for a variance. Rezoning, or conditional use, whatever it is, they come in and they make an application. In this case, it was rezoning, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so when the rezoning application happens, then you advertise notices for a planning commission meeting, supply information, make sure all the application is in order, and you forward that on to the planning commission for their consideration at a public hearing that's advertised. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
A decision is then made at that hearing as to approve recommendation or deny recommendation for the rezoning. Is that correct?
Yes, it was to deny the recommendation.
Okay, but they don't make that determination. They're making that as an advisory, as a gatekeeper, because they're keeping in mind everything else that goes on, and they make that to this body. Okay, and then when this body got it, that's when Mr. King came and said he wanted to appeal before we began. And so we continued with the public hearing at that point. His appeal was then specified in writing as to several things, but the normal course would be to take it from there to here, and then from here to Superior Court. But there's an
extra step in this in that you can appeal at any point under section 13 that's in front of you. If there's an error by a zoning official such as Glenn or somewhere in the process, Linda not putting the notice out or whatever it might be, you know, so that's what I think we're here about today, is that technical issue, not the entirety of it. So we're sort of.
We already voted to deny it one time, or did we not? But this is the appeal of that.
No.
This is not
Go ahead.
this is not an appeal of y'all's decision to deny it. According to our ordinance, he has a right to appeal alleging
Technical
a
problem.
technical process.
Specifically, that a requirement, he's saying that the requirements or the decisions or whatever were made in error, something was left out in the process. In other words, before it came before you, I guess then that gets to the question, what happens when you decide that there was an error? Then that raises another question of where to go from there. But if you decide there wasn't an error, then that ends it and he goes on to Superior Court.
So we get to decide whether we made an error ourselves or not.
Well, or below. In other words, typically this type of appeal would be raised at an earlier point in the process.
My only thing, I know some don't want to wait, I want something fair that we put this to bed with us today for the sake of everybody involved, knowing that Mr. Bullard, if we,
Would it be fair to ask, how long are y'all willing to wait today?
Okay, my recommendation is if the man said he'd be finished by lunch, I know they break Superior Court at lunch. Okay, so lunch is usually 12 o'clock. Okay, it's 10 minutes to 15 minutes from Cordele. Okay, so if you were willing to wait until 12:15 or 12:30 or later, I think that would be reasonable. But that's a lot of time for people who come a long way and were supposed to be here at 11.
okay, but
I gotta go back to work too.
Mr. Bullard stated he'd be here by lunch. We give him at best 15 minutes to present his case. So my thing is, at best, we start our discussion and decision at 12:15.
An hour.
That's at best. If y'all object and want to go on and make it, I'll vote. I'll go ahead and vote. Knowing he's got another, he won't have to pay his attorney for the day, he can pay him for the next step of the process.
All right, we heard from one commissioner. Everybody else got a mouth around the table.
I want it to be fair, but like I said, I don't want to sit here and wait 30 or 45 minutes to an hour, because like I said, they could have been changed the time if you feel he couldn't make it. I'm willing to wait, but that's a long time to wait, a whole nother hour.
This was the email from Mr. King dated Tuesday at 7 p.m.
I apologize, but I had a bond hearing down in Cordele, and I tried to get the judge to let us go early, but he said we'd be out. We weren't, so. Basically, what we're going to do is we filed appeal, and we're going to ask you all to reverse the decision you made the last time.
Okay, can I stop right there? Okay, the thing I say, what we're here about is we're here about
Section 13 appeals, and while you could theoretically ask for that, there are specific errors that were made below by the zoning officials that we're looking at. That's what your appeal of the entirety of the matter, I understand, to be the Superior Court. And so
Yeah, but one thing I'm gonna have to do, according to the rules and regulations, the presiding officer is supposed to control this hearing, and that's Mr. Barron, not the attorney.
Okay, then I make an objection, Mr. Barron. The objection is that his appeal is I consider out of line. It's inordinate. It's insulting. It makes all kinds of allegations about things that just did not happen. And I think we're here about what's focused on in Section 13.
Okay. Now, can I go ahead?
Okay, I'm caught in the crosshairs, and I need to. I ain't in no court. I mean, I guess it's a court proceeding, but
One thing I want to make sure y'all understand and clear.
Okay.
He is not going to control this hearing like he did last time and then represent y'all. He can do one or two. If you want him to be the hearing officer, let him be the hearing officer, but he cannot be the attorney for you all and the hearing officer too.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is, okay, at the pleasure of the board, this is going to be the hearing officer, right? I don't want to make sure. Okay, because right now I'm all.
Okay, where we are is,
yeah.
If I may be heard.
Okay then.
Mr. King is attacking me individually, and he's attacking this board collectively with a shotgun approach. What we need is to focus on the rifle approach that is allowed by your ordinance, which is Section 13, and it needs to be focused on what the first two sentences of Section 13 are. And if he gets outside of those lines, then you hold him to his feet on that. That's what my position would be as your attorney. And if you're the hearing officer, and you're not, there's not a hearing officer, it's a board. He's incorrect in that. And so the board is going to take evidence. We're going to focus our directions to the chairman of the board, and that is the protocol. And he's not going to set the parameters of this any more than I'm going to set the parameters of this. And anything he wants to attack me on personally is a red herring. In other words, it's a distraction to keep you focused somewhere else other than what's really going on here. And this is a long-standing process of which you've heard before, and this is not the first time this has been before you. The proper avenue for what the relief is that he asked for at the beginning of this, when he started his remarks, is the Superior Court. Now, how he gets there from here, he needs to finish what he's doing here. Y'all need to make a ruling one way or the other. And then if he's happy with your ruling, then that ends it, I suppose. If he's not happy with your ruling, he takes it elsewhere. There's no emotion involved in it. There's no reason to be angry about that. There's no reason to raise voices. There's no reason to point fingers. There's no reason to get upset or hot-headed about it. We just need to be calm and collected and let him present what the errors are as they pertain to your ordinance. And I assume he's ready to do that.
Okay, I am ready to do that, but I think your ordinance says there is a presiding officer. And I think, Mr. Barron, you are the presiding officer under those regulations, not the board.
Why don't you show us that?
Okay. I am actually going to give you all exhibits. Here are my exhibits 1 through 8. Now,
before we do that, you raised the issue of the presiding officer not once but twice.
Okay.
With all due respect, Mr. Barron, I would ask him to show us where the presiding officer is.
Okay, if you look at under your policies and procedure for county initiated zoning changes, and if you look at
okay, is this a county initiated zoning change? Is this a county initiated?
Oh, okay, no, you all sent me this as what the procedure
Back
was.
up. You're reading under, you did this the last time you were here. You read what you wanted to from different sections. Right now, is this a county, did the county initiate this zoning change?
According to me, when I did a public documents request and I asked you all what.
Question.
Yes, based on when I did a public document. Okay, well, you ain't gonna talk to me any kind of way.
All right.
No,
If you
you
need to
come,
leave,
no,
leave.
you calm down.
Okay,
No,
all
don't-
right,
don't do
all right,
that.
all right, okay, since I'm the,
Don't
whatever
you do
Tyler,
it.
new Tyler that I
Stop.
have, okay, Mr. King, Mr. Bird. Okay, the pleasure of the board.
Now, I know why you
Okay,
got a judge, so don't start that.
let me talk now. Let me talk now. It's the pleasure of the board. Okay, do y'all want to proceed on what we got going on with the emotion that's going on?
Yeah, I want to finish this today. I'd like for him to present his appeal based on the errors that he said that we made in coming up with our decision.
Okay.
Okay, that just one.
Okay.
He just won. Just like
Okay.
you said, that just
Okay,
one.
okay.
Okay, what about your team?
Yeah, but no more than that. I'm saying because it's not just what he supposed to be doing today.
Eugene?
The appeal as it stands.
Okay. Tony?
Fine with it. The view.
Okay. All right, let's continue.
Okay. Now, let me get in, basically, we filed appeal, and what we believe is that y'all have violated the due process rights of Mr. Bullock and the right to use his property the way he is supposed to use them. Now, this is where we think that you violated it. Basically, you all have a policy, I think, and I asked and I got it, where y'all said that Mr. Bullock was supposed to get 10 minutes to present his side. He didn't get 10 minutes to present his side before you, nor did he get 10 minutes at the planning commission. Basically, after he got those 3 minutes, he was supposed to be able to come back and do a 3-minute rebuttal. He didn't get the 3-minute rebuttal at the planning commission, nor did he get the 3-minute rebuttal here. Also, there was supposed to be a record as to what happened at the planning commission. As far as I know and understand, there was no record at the planning commission, and there was no record here, because when we were here last time, and I still don't know, because if we appeal this to Superior Court, there was no record created here, nor at the planning commission, and those are your policies. At this time, I want to submit into evidence exhibits 1 through 8, and these exhibits 1 through 8, they basically contain the information dealing with my appeals, and I have also attached basically the policies that show that y'all have a written policy that y'all are not basically following. I also have attached, and I don't know, is the clerk going to keep the record, or who's going to keep the record? Because I'd like these to be a part of the record, because when we go to Superior Court, y'all are going to have to submit a record as to what happened here. And I would like to submit exhibits 1 through 8 as the exhibits to be a part of that record that you're supposed to be keeping with regard to this process. So who would I give them to?
What's in the record? Why would we add, what is in that? Why would we add that to our record if we don't know what's in it? You're just saying that you're giving that to us?
Right, to make it a part of the record. I mean, you can look at it and see what it is.
Should give it
Madam Clerk.
Yes.
On an appeal, and that's what we're here for, is an appeal, evidence is not entered. Entering documents is evidence. So if the evidence is not entered below, then it's not entered at the appeal. You don't go to the Georgia Court of Appeals or the Georgia Supreme Court and enter evidence. They're a review of errors of law. That is why we're here. We're not here to rehash the time limits or the time that was used for argument instead of presenting the evidence then. That was their choice below.
Okay, the way this would work is that any evidence would have been basically submitted at the planning commission hearing. The reason evidence, not only that, but you all, as I understand it, you didn't have any evidence upon that you got from the planning commission to even make a decision. So there was no evidence in the file. That is not our fault. That is you all's fault because you didn't keep the record that your ordinance says you need to keep. Now, with regard to Mr. Gregory has been an attorney for some period of time. I can submit this and you can object to it, but I don't think he can tell you not to take it because he's the attorney that represents you all. At some point, the whole purpose of this process is to be fair to the person whose property it is.
Mr. Chairman, well, the question is, was what he wishes to submit 1 through 8, were they submitted at the planning commission? And that's what I heard him say that happened. If that's the case, then they should be part of the record. I don't disagree with him.
Okay, but you don't have a record because you didn't do you did not do the planning commission hearing correctly. And that's where you were supposed to present. Yeah, let me give you an example. Y'all policy says that you're supposed to have one person to represent the person in support of it and one person to represent the opposition. What y'all have been doing is y'all let everybody get up and come talk in violation of your policy. Now, I would think, since Mr. Bullock is a resident here of Dooley County, Georgia, y'all would at least want to make sure that if you're going to rule against them, at least follow your own written policy. And you don't have to believe me with regard to what your policy is. Read it.
The question, Your Honor, Mr. Barron, Chairman Barron, the question is simply, did your client or you, on his behalf, submit 1 through 8 at the planning commission?
We couldn't because they didn't have the hearing correctly.
Okay, so
they didn't take.
The answer is they did not. Did you submit?
No. There's a difference between they did not and whether or not he was given the process that he was due under the law. He was not. If they had done the procedure right, then maybe. I mean, y'all tell me from the planning commission. Show me the record from the planning commission so I can look at it now. I don't think there's a record.
Have you requested that record?
Yeah, I actually did a public documents request dated January 12th, 2024.
Was it given to you?
No, I still don't know what the record is.
You don't know the record? Were you at that hearing?
What?
At the planning commission?
I was not at the planning commission, but I sort of asked for the minutes of it, and there was no record. And when I came here the last time, there is no record. I think if there was a record, the record would be maintained by the clerk, but I just don't think that's what y'all been doing.
You sort of asked, or that's what you asked in writing to him?
I asked for it. Let me just see if I can. Okay, I asked for copies of any and all documents any member of the Dooley County Board of Commissioners reviewed prior to denying Craig Bullock's application for zoning and rezoning on December 21st, 2023. And that would have been the record that y'all would have reviewed before y'all made a decision. As I understand it, being here, y'all did not review anything. Y'all just let folks come up and talk in violation of your policy, and you voted against Mr. Bullock.
So all you asked for is what we saw prior to.
Right, which would have been the record.
You're assuming we saw the record.
There was no record. There was no record because I was right here when y'all were doing it.
You were at the plant. You're asking for the planning commission record. Their record. When evidence was to be introduced, you're asking for their record.
Right. I request. I actually.
No, Now that you're asking us, you asked for what we reviewed prior to our decision. We didn't, what if we didn't review anything? That's not their record.
I understand, but there was supposed to be a record for y'all too,
That's why.
because that's what your policy say.
Policy says we have to review.
Right,
their
right,
record.
because when I appeal this, you all are supposed to send a record to the Superior Court. Y'all don't have a record to send because y'all have not been following the policy.
Does the planning commission have a minutes and record of the meeting?
Yes, I have a record.
See, they have that. You asked for what we reviewed. We didn't have to review that. He's got it.
Okay, but it should have been up here.
When-
It should have been up there. And I don't think he has a record, because if it was a record, it would be something that the clerk would have, not him. Because when it was sent up to here, the record was supposed to be sent up there with it.
I don't see that. I don't know if that's in our policy or not, but we're just finishing up. There is a record for the public, for the planning commission. You didn't request it, the record. You just requested what we reviewed. We didn't get to review anything. So you didn't get anything.
Right, because it was my understanding that there was not a record. Not only that, but I requested a copy of the minutes of the Dooley County Planning Commission's meeting for December 11, 2023. And I think they might have had a meeting then. And I asked for copies of the written hearing procedures and our guidelines applicable to an appeal hearing on a zoning application and or rezoning application for the Dooley County Board of Commissions in effect on December 11, 2023. So what I'm talking about, of what I asked you for and you gave me, so that's why I know you didn't follow the policy.
Can I ask a question? So the thing that we get in our minutes that say that the motion was denied by the members, that's not a record?
No, that's not a record, because that has, what you got had no evidence in it. It basically, it didn't have any testimony. And I think the way they did it is, instead of having one person represent those who are against it, they just let everybody go up and talk without regard to whether or not everybody, what they were saying could be proof. Like you might have somebody to say, and I think y'all
That was a
did.
hearing. They supposed to talk in a hearing.
Yeah, we don't.
That was a hearing. We were having a hearing when everybody was coming to talk.
Yeah, but your policy say only one person can do it, not everybody.
In a hearing?
Right, that's what your policy say.
In a public hearing?
Right, in a public hearing, that's what your policy say. And if I requested this information from y'all, so if it's incorrect, y'all gave it to me.
We gave you what? Incorrect.
Yeah,
We see the 10 minutes?
Yeah.
No, we're taking up some of it, but we know well.
Yeah, we had a cutoff time. Yeah. No, we waited.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
thought
sir.
what we did was we asked the members to speak, and I may have it confused with another, we've had two of these going on. We asked them to speak to one side. If there were multiple people in the same position, to limit their comments to what hadn't already been said. There was no reason, like if a husband and wife, we had a husband and wife in the audience, there's no reason for her to just echo everything he said or vice versa. And if their neighbor had the same thing, if they had something to add to the commentary, they were allowed to do so. These are citizens who are here at a public hearing, who are not trained bloggers, who are expressing their views, and you're trying to put them to a standard of not being repetitive, but getting their voice to be heard. So it's due process was allowed, my contention. And if there was an error below as far as what was in the record, then the time that was used for argument and objection on the timer by Mr. Bullard could have been used to submit exhibits 1 through 8 the last time we were here.
Okay, well, let me read to you what your policy says on page 58 of your zoning book. It says the presiding officer shall recognize one representative to speak on behalf of those supporting the question before the commission for a time period not to exceed 10 minutes. And then it says the presiding officer shall recognize one representative to speak on behalf of those opposing the question before the commission for a time not to exceed 10 minutes. Now,
What section is page 58?
it's section
Five.
5 and it's page 58.
That's
But it's
for policies
titled
and procedures for county
for county
initiated zoning
initiated
changes.
zoning changes.
We didn't initiate this.
Then there's a section 6 for procedures for rezoning property requests by a citizen or property owner.
And that number 5, it says public hearing held by the county commission will follow essentially the same procedure as those of the planning commission. So basically what you're saying is basically these are the procedures that you will follow. Now, if y'all had, now these are y'all rules, these ain't mine. If y'all got something different, then just let me know and I'll bite down. But don't send me something and then we get here and I tell y'all doing it the wrong way. Y'all saying, well, this is don't tell me this is how we do it. Show me what's in writing. Under the zoning law, y'all gotta have this in writing for due process purposes. You can't just come up with it willy-nilly as you see fit.
What were you sent concerning our zoning processes?
Right.
What were you sent?
I got, and this is part of what I was sent in response to my public documents request.
Was he sent that book there that you're reading out of, the zoning procedures and policies?
And I got the email that it was sent to me from.
Okay, so they sent you the whole packet and you read a piece of it.
No, I specifically asked in my public documents request for, and I'll read that to you again. I specifically asked for copies of the written hearing procedures and guidelines applicable to an appeal hearing on a zoning and or rezoning application for the Dooley County Board of Education. I asked for copies of the written hearing procedures and guidelines applicable to a hearing on a zoning application and or rezoning application for the Dooley County Board of Commissioners and or the Dooley County Planning Commission in effect on December 11, 2023. And this was y'all response to me.
Right, they sent you the whole section.
Right.
And you're quoting to us section 5.
No, this is the section they sent to me as being responsive to my request.
Only section 5?
Right, that's what they sent to me.
You didn't get section 6?
Well, I don't know. I got the email and they got the email they sent me, but this was responsive to what I requested.
That was included in what you request and what was.
No, this was responsive to what I request. I've been doing this a good while now. This was responsive to what I had requested. This was their response. So if y'all got something, say it's 5 minutes and 3 minutes, I don't have it. And if it's in writing, y'all just give it to me. And I guess I can reevaluate my position. But based on what I know, y'all have not followed your own policy. And this is a policy y'all have adopted.
I'll ask, are there any other items that you're appealing based off of?
Right. And I think it violates his due process rights because you all have already made a decision and now you are basically reviewing your own decision, a decision which would have been one that you, I guess, have already prejudged. And I guess in making the decision, it seems like y'all were just in a zeal to rule against my guys such that y'all didn't take the time to read your own policies and or procedures and follow those. And I would think that since y'all did not follow these, you would go ahead and I guess as folks who represent the public want to correct what appears to be a mistake.
Move on.
Okay, I mean, Tim?
I said, let's go, move on now. I don't see no mistake.
Are there any other points?
Okay, and I guess I have in my records that y'all did not follow section 5, did not have a presiding officer.
Yeah, we determined that's the wrong section.
Uh.
That's the section if we change the zoning.
Okay.
Not if he's asking for it.
Okay, all right. Okay, I guess you said that, but I think the way this worked, and if you look at your thing, it says something about a presiding officer. Also, with regard to the decision that we were given, it seems to be a decision that was issued by the clerk of the county clerk, and I don't think based on your policy, the county clerk is the one who actually issues a decision. When I had to do a conflict letter the last time, I had to send it to Mr. Barron because I actually sent it to Mr. Barron and I sent it to Judge Chastain because in this procedure, Mr. Barron was like the judge. He's the one that I would legally send in the notice of conflict. Not only that, but I think I had raised this issue, and after I raised this issue, I think Mr. Gregory drafted a letter, basically that Chairman Barron signed as the presiding officer, basically telling me that if I did not make something would happen, but that should be a part of you all's record, and I would think Mr. Barron would remember. Well, and I guess it's called a notice of a hearing, and it's dated the 9th day of February 2024, and where he basically says that counsel for Mr. Bullock and counsel for Dooley County would need to file a conflict letter with the affected courts and tribunal pursuant to the uniform rules of Superior Court if actual conflict arises. So I think what that means is maybe Mr. Barron is the presiding officer. I've been doing hearings for a little while, doing in front of Board of Education, county commissions, and generally the chairman is the person who does. I recently had a 9-hour hearing or so. It might not be now, but it was televised on WALB in front of the Dougherty County Commission, and the presiding officer was the chairman over there, and that's generally the way it is. I don't think, I know the board votes, but generally all 5 board members, when I got this letter from Mr. Barron, not all 5 folks sign off on it. The entire board is just, he signed off as the presiding officer. So basically, we do not believe that you followed your policy. And if there is another policy that I requested and you didn't send to me, pursuant to the Georgia Open Records Act, I'm requesting that policy today because I don't want you to say, well, there's a different policy when I've already asked for the policy. And we hope that the goodness in your heart would allow you to admit you made a mistake and you violated your rule. And I hope you will do what is necessary to correct it. Not for me, not for Mr. Bullock, but because it's the right thing to do.
Eugene, anything? Tony?
I can't think of anything that's gonna change the ruling. You know, that's, whether we, 10 minutes or the 3 minutes or whatever, I don't know if that's gonna change the ruling at all. So, no, I ain't got that.
Do we need to vote to end the appeal?
I think the floor is open for a motion to grant or deny the appeal. I think it's the proper.
I make a motion after listening to the appeal and the arguments that we deny the appeal and let our ruling stand.
Second the motion.
Discussion.
Okay, there's been motion and second. We need to hear, are there any discussions on it before we vote on it?
We need to add for like what particular, like we usually do, or not necessarily on this one? Like what section?
That was when we denied it. I'm just saying that we didn't.
We didn't,
We
okay, we
invited-
already gave a section being when we denied it.
Right, that was in the original. That was in the original decision. My motion now is based on listening to the argument of our violation and all that. I don't see any, and
All right, are we ready to vote on it now? If not, all in favor by the show of hands? That motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that's all the matters of business that I have on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
There's a motion and second. All in favor, please stand up and left.
We did it right. It's an open meeting recording.